Persepolis Rising. As always, spoiler warning for anything that came before, just in case I mention something that I don't foresee, I don't know. Also, we're just gonna keep right on going. Consistency and pacing. I will have to do like a supercut of me saying consistency and pacing because it is really that good. Yeah, anyway, it's just really that good. At this point, I've just assumed that they're just going to nail it all the way through, but I'm going to continue to say it. Moving on. After the big arc that was, book 6 concluded, now we have a 30-year time jump, and we're in the future, whatever, for our characters. So everything here feels different, yet it feels the same. So it's weird. In the ways that the last couple books felt different, like, rotating through a crazy amount of characters, or that big, epic, bombastic ending that we were stuck in, all of that, we don't do that anymore. We're back to a pretty typical character rotation for James S.A. Corey. And we're back to the book feels like it's selected, it's a gimmick. Kind of like back when it was like, oh, this book's a Western, or this book's a this. This book is the crew is split up again, and these are on the ship, and this one's stuck on the Medina station, or Medina, or however you say that. So the setup in this one feels like a throwback to the gimmicky setups of previous books. The more standardized character rotation feels like a throwback to the more standardized character rotation of the older books. Yet, we're moving forward in storyline. We obviously had it moving forward in the timeline by 30 years. Characters are all, they were all young and spry and lively before. Now they're kind of old and are thinking about retirement or whatever, So, in a way, it's very different, but in a way it's very much the same thing. We also have a new enemy, and we have new stakes to the book. That being said, that is a nice segue into talking about the enemy, which is very bittersweet. Actually, a lot of this book is just very bittersweet. Finally, things are getting paid off. Some of the things that we've been basically waiting for since book 1 are finally just now starting to come back up and around and actually rear their head in ways that they, quite frankly, took them too long to get to. But finally, here we are. Finally, something's happening. It finally feels like we're getting somewhere, so that's good. And all of a sudden, I know, granted it's 30 years later, but all of a sudden the bad guy pops up, and the bad guy pops up with the technology, and here we go, and here it is, and it just doesn't feel like it was developed properly. It doesn't feel like it was set up properly. It's set up enough or foreshadowed enough or something. I'm not entirely sure how to say. Because yes, the bad guy was did show up earlier, but for a scene that wasn't really that important. I mean, it was, but it just felt like you could have done more to set this up, to sprinkle the stuff around in the background. In the end, it just didn't feel satisfying. And I feel like it could have been done better. The lead up, the setup to it. That being said, some of the ideas and the concepts and the way it's done, it's just kind of, for lack of a better word, cool. The uses of the technology, it's slick, and it was just kind of neat. I'm trying to find good things to say here. But the bad guy shows up, and then they're so OP that they're not intimidating. And that's a weird thing to say, but it's true. So you want them to be stronger than your protagonist, because then they're threatening and they're scary, and oh my God, there's no way to beat them. But if that can only go so far. Once you have pushed that perceived threat level or perceived power level of your antagonist so far that it becomes just ridiculously over the top powerful, that they don't even seem threatening anymore. Because now we know subconsciously somehow that there's just gonna be a MacGuffin, or it'll just be brushed. I don't know, but it's not like dialing it that far increases the tension. It actually strips all of it away until you're left with nothing, because I don't feel the stakes anymore. Somehow you ramped them up to the point where they just disappeared. That being said, this one feels like it's going to have a through line, a very strong through line. It starts here, it goes to the end of the book, and the end of the book feels like it's very much so you're going straight into the next one, and we're going somewhere. It doesn't feel like the old books where, you know, this book was this book, this book was this book's stakes. I've said it before, this book's stakes didn't matter to the next book or the next book or the next book. They were all just little disjointed things. This doesn't feel like that. It's felt like going from books 5 to 6, it felt like there was that real distinct through line, and then it kind of cut it off there to cap that off. But now it feels like we're really, we're getting into the main stakes, and we're really going to have a distinct through line again, which is great. Which once again is kind of bittersweet, because as much as that's awesome, all that does is it really serves to underscore or highlight just how badly that first half needed it, or just how much the first 5 books of this series would have benefited from a similar through line that you could really feel, that was really tactile. But whatever, it's here now, and good for them for finally giving it to us. Also, just to cap it off, I should constantly bring up the big blockbuster feeling, and this one isn't as over the top as the last book or on steroids as the last one was, but it is still there. They still nail it. They still keep it really focused, and between this and that consistency, it is not surprising in the slightest why this is, as popular as it is, and why it has spawned what it has spawned, at least as far as the TV show is concerned. This one in particular, I feel like just because I felt like they dropped the ball so badly on the bad guy, and they were just, like I said, they were so OP, they weren't threatening, and they weren't developed enough in the previous books. They just kind of like pop up like, yes, this was happening all along, and you're like, yeah, no, it wasn't. I mean, it might have been in the background, but it would have been nice if you foreshadowed a little bit more, or set it up a little bit more. So it's just going to slide it back to a 6. It's still better than Nemesis games. Not quite as good as the last one or the first one. I think it's fair that this one falls right about in line at a 6. So there it is.